And then like 12 seconds later, we're both like, oh my God, like this is so bad.
He's lying because he gets in the water and he's off.
Yeah,
like
he can swim.
He can swim really good. In fact, when we did the triathlon, he like passed me like.
Were you like swim team as a kid or anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems like all the natural adult swimmers were the ones that were on swim team as a kid.
Yeah, and I'm not a fast swimmer, but I'm comfortable in the water.
He took off, and I'm like, Mister, can I hold on the side of your boat? No, we'll pull
Welcome
you
to the
out.
Lift Heavy Run Long podcast, episode number 156 with Ron Bogart. You can find us at www.liftheavyrunlong.com, on Twitter and Instagram at liftrunlong. Also, feel free to email me directly at the address wilson@liftheavyrunlong.com. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. If you're not a member of our Facebook group, you should be because we want you to be there. Search for Lift Heavy Run Long Community and request to join right now. My name is Wilson Horrell. I'm one of your hosts. I would like to remind you that the Lift Heavy Run Long podcast is not censored, so listen at your own risk. Lift Heavy Run Long has an app. We want you to be on it. For $3.99, you can be part of that app, and with that, you will have access to the greatest endurance trainer in the world, Ms. Valerie Hunt of RunRx.fit, and you will have delivered to your calendar 3 bodyweight exercises, 4 daily WODs, and 4 barbell strength exercises every week. For $9.99 per month, you can have access to all the programs that Lift Heavy Run Long has to offer, everything from 5K programs to 100-mile programs to triathlons to Spartan races. The goal of Lift Heavy Run Long is to bring fitness to as many people as possible, as inexpensively as possible. So if you or someone you know does not have $3.99 a month, but you think that fitness would enhance the quality of your life or their life, please email me at wilson@liftheavyrunlong.com, and I'll be more than happy to add you to the app free of charge. I have, sitting to my right, the most attractive and intelligent and kindest person in the world, my wife, Dr. Amanda Kimsey Horrell, jacked and tan.
Hello, everybody.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm wonderful.
Good.
Anything new to speak of?
I've been getting enough sleep.
You sure have. And what a difference it makes.
Yep.
Good on you.
Yep.
I
I've
love
been
it.
going to bed at 7 o'clock every night the
It's
past
It's tough
week.
to prioritize that, isn't it?
It is, but today was the first day I woke up and I felt refreshed and good and awake. And it's amazing.
It was wonderful for all of us, for all parties involved. We have sitting next to her, Mr. Ron Bogart of Legions of Longevity. And if you're not in Legion of Longevity, you should be on Facebook, should be there now. Ron is also a member of the 400. I hate saying member.
Why?
I just don't like the
He doesn't like
exclusive
in the league
exclusivity.
Why?
In the league of the 50 pound.
It's a club, and he's a member because you have to deadlift 400 pounds and run 50 miles to do it, and that's exclusive, and that's okay.
Agree to disagree.
No, it's okay. It is what it is. I'm just saying I don't like it. We clear on that?
Are you a member?
You introduce him.
He's a member.
Actually,
he is a member of
the only person in the room right now that's not a member of that club is me.
Does that hurt your feelings?
No.
Well,
But
Vaughn
I'm
said
offended at Wilson being offended.
Vaughn said if he couldn't deadlift 400 pounds, he would take himself out of the group.
Okay.
Well, I'm out of the group.
Do you have to requalify?
No,
Oh
Vaughn
my
said that he
gosh.
would. He's the only one that said that. I will never take myself out of there. I work too hard to get in. So I will stay in that exclusive club.
But you deadlift 400 pounds and run 50 miles every single year.
Yeah, you do.
You do.
I have done that for the past few years.
Yes. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I don't mean to imply you've done it since birth, but yes. since you've been a member of
Since
that group.
inception.
And to interject a thought, if you keep doing that every year, there'll never be a year that you can't.
That's right. God, you guys are so smart. That's what's so important. I keep myself surrounded by smart people. And speaking of smart people, the Reverend.
Oh, me.
He was about to take a nap over there.
I was like, oh, he's going right to Brian.
Von Rawls, how are you, Rev?
Man, I'm doing good. Thank you.
Good. What's new?
What's new?
You got to come up with something because I got to turn this air conditioner off.
Well,
It's
go
driving
turn
me
the air
crazy.
conditioner off. I am starting to get fat again, and I'm like getting stronger, and I'm so excited about it. I worked out really hard this week, and I feel really good for the first time in several several weeks, several months even. So I'm really excited about that because it feels really good to go and get a good workout in, lift some weights, get a good pump on.
There's nothing wrong with any of that.
It feels so good, but I haven't felt really good until the last 2 weeks, like where I feel really, really good. Like Amanda was talking about, now you're rested and you feel good. I get what you're saying. Yeah, I feel like I'm back to normal.
Well, then I saw you front squat the other day, and you've been talking about doing these things with the bar, and then you're front squatting with like 165 pounds.
Yeah,
like that. Now you're getting to
175.
borderline back to where I'm envious of you, and I don't like you as much. I think I like this road to recovery more than I like.
Yeah.
But I like what you're
do
doing
too.
because there's nothing wrong with getting fat. But if you're gonna be fat,
You got to be strong.
you got to be strong.
That's all right.
Big Thirsty,
Hey, dude.
how are you?
I'm okay.
It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Glad you brought your computers,
I did.
both of them.
I heard back from Madison as quickly as I could.
Yeah, good job. How'd you do today? Did you make the top cut?
You got cut in the
I
first.
just got that.
Was that you that was you that fell off the rope earlier today, wasn't it?
It was.
At least they have a cushion underneath it.
No, life's good.
Life's good. We're all networked up. I love to see that.
Yeah, man. I'm ready.
This is
Sitting
some
on G, waiting
professional
on O.
stuff that we got going on over here.
Vaughn's talking about the fact that he's starting to feel good again, and I'm still at the point where it takes me 6.5 days to recover from a CrossFit workout.
No, I don't believe that because you've been running and coming to CrossFit, and you're on the up and up. Yep,
Okay.
you have.
Man,
Because I see you there.
Let me tell you,
I'm still feeling that Tuesday workout, just so we're clear.
give Stephen Mathis a shout out. He's a coach at our gym, and I think he's been on this show before.
No, he has not. He
No,
needs to
we
come
need
on
to-
here.
Oh
need to
yeah,
get
we
him
do
on
need
here.
to bring
Yeah.
him on.
Arrange that.
But
Please.
I was talking to him, and I was like, man, I just want to get strong. I just want to rebuild all this mass, and I want to get strong. And so he wrote a program for me.
Sure.
And I think like the third day of the program, and he's got a lot of bodybuilding stuff in there. So the third day of the program was like, it was called like death set of calf raises, weighted calf raises or something. And I didn't even hold weights. I just stood on a 45-pound plate and did it's like do 100 as fast as you can. And I like did 40, and I was like, oh my God, I have to stop
gonna
doing
die.
this. I was like, why does this hurt? So I did 50, and then I went all the way to 100. The next day I couldn't walk.
I remember seeing the picture.
hurt
of you with
so
your
bad.
Calves iced in.
It hurt so bad. I was like, I'm gonna get rhabdo again.
That's
like
gotta be on the level of like Scott Hollis's 1,000 double unders.
Yeah, I was like, what did I just do? That was the dumbest thing I could have possibly ever done because I didn't think in my mind that would be very bad.
The novelty got to you.
Holy moly!
Yeah.
I couldn't walk for 3 days, and then I said, okay, what's going on here? Why can't I recover? Why am I? So then I thought, well, I need to sleep. Like I'm not sleeping. I'm trying to stay up till 10 or 11 o'clock at night and get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, go coach at the gym.
Nope.
Or whatever. You need to start going to bed. And I started taking ZMA again, which
Oh, nice.
which kind of helps me in a deeper sleep. I think it helps you sleep a better sleep to where you recover better. So I started popping those pills and going to bed earlier, and it makes a world of difference. Like this week, I feel fantastic. I'm not sore. I can walk. It's all much, much better.
I've pretty much always been a tosser and turner when I sleep at night, and I always sleep better when I use EMA. I don't know why I ever get off of that regimen when I do. So
And my
I need to add
dreams
that
are
back
killer. I have really good dreams.
Good dreams?
Oh man, they're
Okay.
just incredible. They're weird sometimes, but it's really awesome.
Yeah, well, weird's cool as long as it's not scary.
No, not scary.
Yeah. I don't want you to have scary dreams. I don't want to have scary dreams either. I do want to tell you about the Chris Hope 5K that's Saturday, October 5th.
hear
You can
it.
go to chrishopefoundation.org and register for that. And you can join Team LHRL, and you can be there in person, or you can do the virtual race. And 2 weeks after that, you can register for the Big Hill Pond Walking Tall 25K and 50K, which is Saturday, October 19th. And you can register at www.walkingtall50k.com. Need to get in there and do that. Amanda, will you give me a victory for the week? Personal victory. What you got?
I think what I just said earlier, I got caught up on my sleep.
That works. That's
I
a
haven't
good
felt
victory.
like this in a really long time.
What about your performance review at the hospital? That's a big victory.
Oh, yeah.
It was A+ fantastic.
Yes. I had my 6 year, I've been there for 6 years. I had my yearly evaluation done, and it was
stellar.
very nice.
It was very nice.
Yep.
Ron, you got a victory this week?
I actually do. It's probably going to go a little different direction because it's what I didn't do, and a struggle for me. I mean, you guys, we all know how important recovery is, but also with all of us being kind of hard drivers, when everything's good and you're going hard, to be able to unplug from the gas and take a little bit of a break's hard to do. And I've been training pretty hard. I changed my routine about a year ago, and I haven't taken a break. Like 3 to 4 days of lifting, day or two of running, cycling, and I was just starting to kind of tap out, decided, this would be a good week for me just to take a break, and I didn't train this week.
Nice.
I mean,
were you sitting on your hands all week?
Well, I was active. I was moving around a lot. I was still getting in a lot of activity, but I didn't lift a weight, and I can't remember. It's been years since I probably went a week without doing that. And the biggest thing I've learned is that I didn't die.
Yeah.
And I didn't atrophy into a small child. And
I'd go back into the womb in the fetal position.
I know. And I actually feel really, really good.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I'm going to pull a Vaughn and do 100 of something when I go back next week, and then I'll be hobbling around, needing a walker or something like that. But so yeah, being able to take a break from it's been actually a big victory for me this week.
Nice. Rev?
I did 8 push-ups unbroken this morning.
8, man.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's what, a 38% increase from the last time we talked to you. That's great, man.
It's a big
That's
deal.
significant.
It's odd how excited I get about it, but
I don't think it's odd at all. I think it's great. Thirsty.
Progress. I showed up to CrossFit on Tuesday for the 3rd week in a row.
There you go.
And that was after getting back from vacation less than 12 hours earlier. So that was significant for me because I didn't sleep much on vacation because we were having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So the fact that I got up at 4 a.m. to be at the gym at 5 a.m. was a big deal.
Very cool. Well, I'm still riding. Last week I said that, talking about Vaughn, you mentioning that you never saw it in me that I would be uncomfortable with myself. And so I've kind of just ridden that awareness of what a drag that is to not feel comfortable with yourself, and how much of your life can potentially just be consumed by being unhappy about something that nobody else gives a shit about. And it's funny because I read Amanda Mowry had made a post I think she made it in the Lift Heavy Run Long community, but it said, in case you didn't already know this, your weight is the least important and the least interesting thing about you. And I thought, what could be more true? And yet, the thing that the majority of people who have any sort of weight problem focus on the most. Think about how much time and energy goes into focusing on how other people feel about your weight. I've got this friend, and he's an old man, Billy Davis, and he always says that in his 70s, the only 2 things that he's really learned is that, 1, nobody cares how smart you are, and 2, you can't unring that bell. And that is when you open your mouth and you say something stupid, whether it be about somebody else or yourself, you can't go back in time for that. So no matter how smart you might think you are at the time, it's usually best just to keep those things to yourself.
Some famous person, I want to say it's a president of the U.S., said something along the lines of, better to be thought of as a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt.
Yeah. Okay, I've got something that y'all are just going to have to bear with me. We're going to get to Ron and focus on Ron because he came all the way in town from Missouri. How long of a drive did you make to come here?
Forever.
Forever. He drove forever to be on this show.
May as well be another country.
So
Pretty
it pretty
much.
much is. Byhalia is, although I think Ron is familiar with this kind of country. He said the gunshots that he heard when he was walking into the shop kind of made him feel better
Right when I
about
got
where
out,
he was.
it was like perfect cue. It was great.
So this segment, I think that you're really going to like it.
Oh, we have a segment.
Yeah. Yep. It is Dad Jokes, Bad Jokes. And it's by Daniela Kraus. She posted this on bad jokes on her Facebook wall, and I spent probably an hour reading them. And so I'm going to give them all to you, and I will not move on until you at least somewhat laugh at each of them. How can you tell the sex of a chromosome?
No idea.
Look at its jeans.
Pull down its jeans.
There you go.
Good job. Amanda's got one.
Oh, now
Why-
it's a competition.
Why it's a competition now? Why do teenagers
wins.
walk in groups of 3? Because they can't even.
That is so bad.
That's so good. That is
man.
so good.
That's bad.
Swanson gets one for laughing.
That's fine.
Why can't a nose be 12 inches long? Somebody should
Then it
know
would
that.
be a foot.
There you go. I'll give you a point for that. What do you call fish with no eyes?
I'm on the board.
It's on the board. Oh man, it's getting heated.
A little too literal.
Why did the skeleton stay home from the dance?
He wanted to stay in the closet.
No, but that's pretty good. Pretty good guess.
That was a
Anybody?
good- I have nothing.
Because he had no body to go with.
Wah, wah.
Oh man, that's great. Y'all got no sense of humor at all. All right, I only have like 30 more.
Ugh.
Bought a gun from a man named T-Rex. He was a small arms dealer.
T-Rex jokes are always funny.
I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more. What did the fish say when he bumped into a wall?
I've heard this before. I've heard
Is
this
that the
before.
real answer?
No.
No,
He said, damn.
that's it.
What do you feed a baby who likes math?
Algebra?
That's it. Quadratic formula. What has 2 butts and kills people?
No idea.
An assassin.
Wah, wah,
Yeah, that was
wah.
bad. I should have left that one off. What noise? We only got 2 more, so y'all got to like these 2. What noise does a 747 make when it bounces? Boing, boing, boing.
It's a Boeing. So
Boeing.
Boeing, Boeing, Boeing,
Boeing.
Oh.
Boeing. What is it called when Batman skips church? You ready? Christian Bale. That's great.
Oh, my God.
And one more thing, I have a review, kind of, a little bit. I have an email that could have been a review that because nobody else leaves us a review, I'm going to
You're gonna read the email.
make it a review.
I'm just going to read the email.
Count it as one. So if you go to iTunes and it's not there, pretend that it is.
Okay.
And if you want me to email it to you, I can do that.
Did they tell you how many stars it was when they emailed you?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Because it's like a review. They just don't use iTunes.
Okay.
All right. I'm super committed to the podcast. LHRL is the only podcast I listen to because I think it's funny, enjoy the banner, and sometimes there's good running material in there.
Sorry about that.
The laughing and hypotheticals are the best. They are extreme, and the good ones have a lot of passionate discussion behind them. Usually unnecessary, but that's what makes it even better. If I actually left reviews online, this would get 5 stars or whatever the high score is. Thanks again, Molly Hobbs.
That was nice.
Thank you, Molly Hobbs.
Thank
Yes,
you, Molly.
thank you.
That was nice.
an
That made
awesome
me happy.
review.
Good people. Debbie Lindsay just dropped our kids off from CrossFit Kids.
Thank you, Debbie.
She's so good.
Yep.
The kids are loving CrossFit Kids. But it's about to be over.
Are they about to beat your ass?
They're getting there. Grayson's getting.
Is he getting swole?
Yeah, he's looking good, man. He really is looking good.
He was doing pull-ups with the weight vest tonight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he even wears his damn shirt and what he refers to himself as his bikini style. He's at the age, he's 13, so he's just, all badass and everything.
Sure, sure.
I don't know where he gets it from. I got my bikini style shirt up there coming out of the football tunnel, so whatever. All right, Ron Bogart, Legion of Longevity. Let's talk about you, my friend.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming to town.
Well, thanks for the invite.
You were talking about how you got into lift heavy, run long. Can you share with us
Sure.
that?
So it was a couple of years ago, and I was transitioning out of I guess where I felt like I'd hit the zenith of my fitness or performance potential. I had ran Pikes Peak Marathon. I had actually qualified for nationals in duathlon.
Wow.
Running and cycling. I didn't end up going because I got short notice, and it was a weird deal. So anyway, but I was trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I was getting up close to 50, and so again, this was a couple of years ago, and I came across you guys and this whole deal of lifting heavy. I'd been in CrossFit since 2010, I think.
Pretty early.
Yeah, I was a pretty early adopter.
I was trying to do the math there. Yeah, same.
Yeah, and but then I also had ran several marathons and 50K, and I thought, you guys are my people, because a couple of years ago I didn't know of. I felt kind of alone, even though Springfield's got a big fitness community. There was nobody that really lifted heavy and ran long, and that was like their two things. And so this whole 5,400 thing you guys were talking about in one of those episodes, and I actually ordered the deadlifting program, and
That Vaughn wrote.
I
did.
Yeah, and you guys even sent some emails afterwards. Hey, you need some help? And I thought I was just supposed to do what it said, so I did. So weird. And then next thing I know, I pulled 400, and I started about 330, something like that. So 3 or 4 months, and I stick to it pretty close. It was like a 12-week program, I think, and so I'd miss some in there.
That's a significant increase.
Well, it was. And so then I'm like, well, now crap, I got to go run 50 miles.
Damn it.
And so I started working on that, and you guys were coaching me through it, even though you didn't realize it, because you're on here telling stories about, what you go through, and most of it is like train wreck stuff. I don't want to have that happen to me, right? So how can I mitigate that? So just wanted to work on being durable. Wanted to get through the thing, and so durability was my word for training for that, and which just ties into the Legion of Longevity thing here in a little bit. But funny story about it, I had a couple of really nice people crewing for me, and when I got to the turnaround, it was a little different on distance. So it was mile 27. I came in, and one of my crew said, "How are you feeling?" And I said, "Durable." And she turned around to the other one and said, "Oh, he said he feels terrible."
Terrible.
No.
Like Charles Barkley.
Yeah, it's not terrible, it's durable. And they're like, "Oh, okay, we're," because they thought I was going to need a lot of treatment or something.
Look that word up real quick.
But anyway, that was kind of my mindset when I got through that. And then when I got on the other side of it, we were actually traveling out of town, and I was still in my mind trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And my wife and I were in a really neat place called Kelowna, British Columbia. Went up with some friends, and I was going to do some trail running up there because there's gorgeous trails. And my wife was concerned because there's also bears in the area. I'm like, there's so many people around. You're never going to see a bear. They stay away from the human scent and all that kind of stuff. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we're up around 50 people on this, bike trail. And we hear somebody holler, and sure enough, there's a bear walking through this crowd of people. And she's like, "Okay, that's it. You're not going trail running in the morning off in the woods." So I had to go run at this park down around this lake, so it was somewhat populated, right? So I get down there. I'm doing my little morning run. I see 2 people out in front of me, obviously different sizes. I get closer, I realize they're different ages. And now I realize it's a grandfather running with a grandson. And something clicked in me that I've got running partners that aren't even born yet. And I thought, this isn't a short game on what I can accomplish right now. This is how long I can stay in the game.
Yeah.
Right? And so I went on like a year or two long study binge on the whole difference between lifespan and health span, where most people's lifespan are up in the 70, 77, 78 range, but their health span's about the early 60s. And health span, and you may even know and traffic in this a little bit, is defined as the period of time that you don't have either a debilitating illness or disability or even what you've gone through. I mean, that was a chunk of your health span that was gone with your rhabdo time, right?
Right.
And so when you look at that and think, okay, people are going to live this long, but they're only going to be active and engaging life for this period of time, what can we do to push that farther into the lifespan, right? And so everything from Dr. Gabriel Lyons on some of the things you were talking about, like on weight, she says a lot of the older communities, not overweight, they're under-muscled, and how muscle is the organ of longevity because it's your metabolic engine. It, hormone production, deals with how you deal with foods and, bone density and everything else. And there's just tons of research out there on what it takes to actually live a longer health span. And so I'm thinking, I've got these resources and I've got people like me that they too have running partners that aren't even born yet. And so how can I pull some of this information together where everybody can kind of look at it? And then I've got some really smart people that are also collaborating and adding some of their knowledge. And so that's what Legion of Longevity has become, is that we're all going to age. And all of us that are athletes are going to have to kind of navigate this time of, what's going to happen. I don't ever want to lay down my sport, and it's not about a game to win. It's a game that you don't get out of. Have you guys heard anything about game theory before? Do you know what this is?
I have not.
Okay, the finite versus infinite game. So it's an idea like when we're training for a race, that's a finite game. It's got a beginning, it's got an end, and it's got an objective. An infinite game is something that never ends, right? So if you were training for a race that was never going to appear, you would train differently than if you were training for something that had an end. So that's a whole little bit of a mindset. It's cool to have some infinite game or some finite games within your whole pattern, but you have to think to the end that you never want to get out of the game. And so you would play that one a little different, right? So that's what probably the biggest thrust behind Legion of Longevity is what it is. And if you take Legion of Longevity, the acronym's LOL, because aging's really funny too. Because I turned 51 this year, and there's stuff for athletes when they start to get up in there, and I've got older people that I run with, and your body will do stuff that is just a mystery. And what they have taught me is you need to leave it a mystery because it'll drive you crazy trying to figure some of this stuff out, right? But you got to learn to laugh about some of these things, because just like we were talking beforehand, how powerful the mind is and getting in a real positivity mindset, how healthy that is. So if you can have a better outlook about what aging is going to look like, then that will help you ease into it a lot better, and you'll be a lot more successful once you get there. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I feel like I honestly and truly feel like that you're really onto something at really the right time to be onto something. And I don't know if it's just because I'm reaching a certain age and, getting into the fitness world and my environment is different, but it seems like there is more focus now on longevity than there ever has been.
So the first, and CrossFit games are going on right now, right? And so the first winner back on the ranch was James Fitzgerald, right? So I've listened to some of what he does and what you guys have been talking about in here too. So we're all CrossFitters, but you've been talking about some of this little bit of bodybuilding stuff and feeling the pump and so on and so forth. Well, if you look at James, you look at Marcus Philly, who is also a games athlete, and you'll realize they've moved out of the every workout has to be all out high intensity into, and now they don't want to call it bodybuilding because that means something different.
Right. Everything has to mean something.
So now it's called functional bodybuilding.
Oh, Lord.
And so if you look up the hashtag functional bodybuilding,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you'll find these guys, and they have learned that, okay, they were the fire breathers, they've done all this, but now they're thinking long game. And they're like, look, we have to maintain and create a good muscle structure. Muscle's the organ of longevity. And we don't want to crush ourselves. So they prescribe a lot of cardio work that's called, I don't know if you guys ever heard of this, it's called walking. And walking unplugged is without music. And walking unplugged outside is actually what a lot of people call hiking. And so what they're saying is, you get so many stresses from your job, from your workouts, from everything you do. And then if your cardio becomes just another stress, now you're having another stress input where you need really a parasympathetic input, which means it helps you relax. And so you start looking at these guys that have already gone down the trail before us, and you're seeing where they're kind of drifting off to, and you guys are kind of auto-regulating what you're doing training-wise, and you're starting to ease into some of that because your body will ask for what it wants, right? And so I've been listening to you guys for the last 2 or 3 weeks doing this, and I'm like, I know what's happening.
That's wild. You have a lot of information on this. I mean, you're obviously a study nerd in the fact that you get on something and you get to the root of it.
Yeah. Well, that was that study binge, which not all binges are good, So I've had to back off of it a little bit. But, yeah, there's a lot of knowledge out there, and it's just a matter of, you'll find what you're looking for. And so once you guys get to the age and stage where you're like, okay, now what's happening down this next path, you'll find some guys and gals that have already out there doing that.
Well, and you're 2 degrees in, and you're thinking that you might go for a 3rd degree.
Yeah. I've most of my education has been in business and leadership, and I've actually have a couple of universities that I'm looking at a health science degree, probably towards strength and conditioning, because the more you learn, and we all become like our own little science project, and so what I'm doing is I'm trying to learn more about what's out there that I can apply to me, see what works for me, then I get to share it with everybody else, right?
How many people do you think really treat themselves as their own science project? And I ask that because I went through so much of my life I wasn't a science project. I mean, I was a chemistry lab, just putting whatever into my body, but I never once thought, what does the long game look like?
I love doing, different kind of mind and body hacks, and I think I've told you guys before, I did polyphasic sleeping for about 6 or 8 weeks before. I've tried all different sorts of things to improve my efficiency, improve my fitness, and all different sorts of things. I love doing that stuff.
Do you think that's because of your fitness background, or are you just kind
of a
curious
fitness background? No, I mean most fitness has actually opened up more doors.
It's because of his nerdy.
Yeah,
you think it's your nerdiness?
Yeah, I mean, it's a science project of one, but that's exactly what it is. It's like, okay, I think I'm doing this really well, but what if I do this thing instead? Will I become more efficient, or will I become higher paid? Will I make more? Whatever the goal is that you're trying to accomplish. There's a lot of different hacks that you can do that. With just yourself as the study.
Do you think that the majority of people are more like that, or do you think the majority of people are more sort of just blind and deaf to all of it?
I think the majority of people just feel like they need to go as hard as they can possibly go all the time and do everything that they could possibly do all the time.
In the fitness area.
Yeah.
In the fitness
Well,
but
I would also say that I think a lot of people are fear change. They get comfortable. And so they're afraid to try new things because a lot of people are actually afraid of just as afraid of success as they are of failure. So they just don't do anything so that they're not successful or failures.
There's a little bit of that too, I think. But I wanted to go back to you were saying how these guys went really hard. and realized that we don't have to do that anymore. This is not the thing. And I love that because I happen to have gone as far as I could possibly go.
Mm-hmm.
And it did nothing for me.
Yeah.
Well, I say it did nothing for me, but I didn't come back with a big, strong set of muscles.
Right.
You know what I mean? I came back with something else, which is even better, which is now I know it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I run another 50-mile race or 100-mile race ever again.
Mm-hmm.
It matters not at all.
Yeah. Well,
you
didn't plan on doing it, but you knocked yourself out of the game.
Right.
And that's no fun. It's better to stay in the game at a different level than what you may have been striving for, right?
Right. But I'm also saying, like, a lot of times it's easy to get into this thing where I have to work out every day this week.
Mm-hmm.
I have to work out every day as hard as I can possibly work out every day this week, 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
Or coach prescribed a workout that wasn't hard enough.
Right.
I got to go back to the other gym to do something else. You don't have, just move.
Yeah. People don't realize that the most important part of a workout is the recovery. Okay. You go do the stimulus, but if you don't recover, you're not getting full use of the adaptation. So why would you do all the work and not get all your money's worth out of what you just spent on that? Right. And so this little bit of tweaking around or becoming your own science project, I think some people, they'll either do it intuitively and not realize that they're experimenting with themselves, or they won't until they end up a science project in a room where they're taking all this out of them, right? Or putting all this stuff in them. So either way, you're going to be a science project.
Like ET at some point.
You might as well just select that route. It's a lot easier.
Well, and you were talking earlier about your parents and how important it was to do just the minimal amount of something.
Yeah. So, real quick, so my parents are in their mid-70s, so that's getting towards the end of the regular lifespan. And my dad's gone through a couple of strokes, and he was always a strong farmer, carpenter, always got around, took real good care of himself. He says, you need to get up and walk outside every day and, just take in a big breath of what's out there. And so he's always done that, but now he has a hard time getting off the couch, and those of us that have aging parents, at some point they become, and I'm going to sound selfish as crap, but they become a real burden, right? And so I'm thinking, if I can keep mom and dad moving around, it's less trouble for me, right? But they think I'm doing it for them. So I'm like, okay, so I'm up at their...
Do I need to cut that from this
No,
podcast?
that's fine. That's fine. They need to know. I think they know. I mean, they raised me. They know what I'm like.
Sure.
So anyway...
I'm selfish.
It's their fault anyway.
Well, pretty much.
It really is. It really is. That's a good point.
All my forming happened by the time I was 6, so it was all them. So anyway, we get a kitchen chair out, and I'm basically going to have Dad do a box squat. And so he sits down, and I'm like, okay, stand up. He's like, well, I can't. So I have Mom come in. Now it becomes a partner workout. So she crosses her arms in front of Dad. He grabs her arms, and he's able to stand up. So she's getting a little upper body. He's getting a little lower body, and they do about 5 of them. And I'm like, okay, we're done for today. That's it. But I want you guys to work on that and get, maybe over the next 2 or 3 months, get to where you can do 20 of those. So I check back about 6 weeks later. Mom's wanting to know what the next workout is. And I'm like, no, this is it. I want you guys to just stay with that one. She's like, and I said, is Dad getting up on his own? She's like, well, he's still using me because I'm needing my workout, but you ought to see him get off the couch now. He's just popping up like it's nothing. And awesome. Just that little bit of intervention and showing them one little thing. And it wasn't like they had to go, figure out how to do a modified version of Fran. They just needed to sit down and stand up.
Right, yeah.
And Mom said, oh, and the other day, I was at church, and this lady came up to tell me something. She grabbed my arm and said, well, Sandra, you got some muscle in there. And she's like, yeah, I'm picking up my husband. So, it's just all real good stuff, and it doesn't take a lot of intervention. It's like the minimum effective dose, which is what we were talking about in exercise. Everybody's been chasing the maximum recoverable volume, which is a term used in, some bodybuilding communities and strength, especially strength sports, right? Maximum recoverable volume, when they should be chasing the minimum effective dose on as little as they can get by to get an adaptation versus what they can tolerate. Make sense?
Yeah.
something similar to that is my mom. She's in her 70s, and she started taking chair yoga. And from that, she comes in and gets in Amanda's car, which is a SUV kind of car, and just the amount of attempts or the amount of effort that it takes to get in the car is a noticeable difference. And then one day I'm over at her house and she's showing me how she, stands up and off the chair, off a kitchen, just a wooden chair that can get difficult fast if you're not conscious of it. If you're not conscious of how you squat, you can be a heavy squatter and still have a hard time getting out of everyday kind of positions that you're going to find yourself in if you're not careful.
So she was able to PR getting in the car.
That's right. Yeah. And
cool
we
is
bring
that?
it to her attention because it's great.
Yeah.
Because, we talked about the travel blog that you read that I wrote about my mom loving to travel.
Yeah.
And, you hate to think about getting to an age where you finally arrived at where you want to be. You're retired. You don't have to screw with your kids going to jail or giving you problems or things like that. And finally, you get to where you can do what you want and you can't.
And you can't.
And the thing holding you back is something that, we're all going to face at some point.
Right. And then the cool thing is, the earlier you start on some of these things, the better. But there's no end date to starting.
Right.
Just like with my folks, my dad had like some rubber bands that he had a shoulder problem, so he'd done a little shoulder work, but he had never really done a lot of strength or functional movements. And just one little or a couple of little things, especially the newbie gains, can still happen to people in their 70s. They can still adapt to that. There's some novelty there, and their body will respond to it. So there's no end date to this. That's the cool part.
You talked about the minimum effective dose. What is that in bodybuilding? I know what CrossFit, the hour or the doing, the WODs and the Metcon is this, but how many hours a day does a bodybuilder build?
Well, it depends. So there's this whole range of, beginner, intermediate, advanced. The advanced guys have to do obviously a lot more work because, they've been doing it for 10, 15 years, and it takes a lot for them to adapt to something, right? But a beginner, you can actually see some improvement if you just do like a full body a couple of times a week. You can maintain a reasonable physique with once a week. You could do an upper on one day, a lower on another day, and if your nutrition's right, your rest is right, stress is right, you can progress and advance just with that. But you've got those people like me that really like going to the gym, and you've got friends there, and that becomes your routine, and then you start pushing that maximum volume.
Are you talking an hour twice a week, or they spend 3 hours in there?
Like for me, I'm in the gym 4 to 5 hours a week.
Okay.
Doing strength work, but
and you're a super jack 50-plus-year-old man. No
appreciate
doubt.
that. But there's more recovery in there because you don't want to stress your body so much that you're not able to recover from it. You're going to walk out of there fatigued, but I'm not going to be dragging out, like a slug trail following me like I used to when I would go to a box and, do Fight Gone Bad and things like that. So,
Do you know who Dr. Rusin is?
Brusin?
Rusin, R-U-S-I-N?
I don't think so.
Okay. I'm just curious. That's the guy that Steven based the program he gave me on, and he was talking about a lot of the same stuff that you're talking about. So I was just curious if you knew who that guy was.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of these things are common terms. Back in the 90s before CrossFit existed, this was really all there was. And then CrossFit came along and blew up and became what it is. And now I think everything's kind of settling out to a little bit of a balance, a little bit of a mix of both. And I really kind of like it that way.
I was going to ask you, you like the direction that fitness is going?
Yeah. Now, I used to joke around because, I did the duathlons a lot, which is running and cycling. And my joke was, why be great at one sport when you can be mediocre at two?
Right.
And so that's what everything else has become, but having a wide range of modalities, I think is useful because, in kids, they're talking about now that being too focused in one sport is causing problems like the young kids that are just in gymnastics or they're just playing soccer, that there's really some risk there of overuse injury and everything us adults
in the early ages. Right?
Yes. Yeah. That it's better for them to have a more well-balanced type of play, if you will, on how they stress their bodies. Well, if it works good for kids, why wouldn't it work for adults too, right? Just kind of makes sense.
Do you have an opinion on kids and when they should start working out or lifting weights or anything like that?
There's not as much science because there's not as much money in kids, so they don't do a lot of research on this. So most of it's just anecdotal. But even this James Fitzpatrick that I listened to on the way over here, he's got this whole big deal where, when they're like 12, 13, they can be learning some movements, but they shouldn't really get into like heavy weights, heavy stress, doing Metcons until, they're getting to be 18 or 19. Their frontal lobes aren't completely even formed at that point. Their brains don't know how to deal with the stress and the recovery at that point. So, they got their whole lives ahead of them. So there's no need to get in a big rush about that.
I walked into fitness with from so far away, came into just a completely new world. And when you walk into that new world, you just feel like that's whatever your bubble is. That's just the way everybody was. And so you talking about coming into the 5,400 was like, I can't believe I found you guys. Well, I walked from nothingness straight to Vaughn. So it was like, whoa, this is crazy, but all this is crazy. Running anywhere is crazy, or lifting any weight is crazy. And so running 50 miles is no more weird to me than running 5 because it's all crazy. So then, quickly my norm became the lifting heavy and running long. And I'm always taken back by how many people come into the group. Like, I can't believe I found y'all. Mm-hmm. I just didn't think there was anybody else out there. And it's just amazing to me that people still feel that way because I'm like...
Well, I think if you look at the groups separately, like runners, and the attitudes are changing, but runners don't think you should do a whole lot of weightlifting, and weightlifters don't think you should do a whole lot of running. So, it's usually you're talking to a group that does one or the other, and so it's weird to find groups that do both.
And there's some science behind the interference effect that, if you do too much of both, then you're going to cancel out the adaptations that you're trying to create.
Sure.
And even with me, I learned that when my running was higher, so when you're running, you're teaching your body to be more efficient, which means you can do more with less, right? And so just think about it from a food and physique standpoint. I actually, when I was training a lot, was about 10 pounds heavier than when I'm training, when I'm running less and lifting more, because lifting makes your body inefficient. The muscle needs all of this fuel, but it's like when I was in my best running shape, my mileage was like a Prius. When I'm lifting a lot, I'm like an SUV, right?
Right.
And so I'll actually have a better physique when I'm running more, because I can eat. No, sorry. When I'm lifting more, I can eat more and be thinner than when I'm in really good running shape and I'm eating less. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of those things, become your own experiment, that I played around with. And so for me, if I'm lifting 4 days a week, running 2 days a week, that's about my sweet spot. If I start moving them around, I'll become a better runner for sure, but I'll also change my makeup to a degree that, it's noticeable. So,
what has that done to your, I'm going to get this backwards. We talked about your infinite goals. Mm-hmm. What has that done to your finite goals? Has it pretty much just cleared them away, or do you have finite goals that you are working towards now?
I've taken a little bit of a break. I ran a 5K last November, because I just wanted to see if I could still do it fairly quickly, even with just running a day a week. And your cardiovascular does go away.
You're here to report. Yeah.
I'm here to report that a day a week of running training is not enough for a super fast 5K. You can still do pretty good. You can outrun most people, but I'm telling you, your lung and
It's not going to feel good.
oh man, I saw a study on this too that most athletes, their lungs are the first things that gives out, and that's CrossFitters. I mean, because if you think about it, when you're trying to do like 30 clean and jerks, it's not your shoulders or your back or anything else that's frozen up on you, it's your lungs.
Mm-hmm.
You got to stop and take a breath. You're not resting your muscles as much. It's your lungs that are on fire. That's why they call those guys fire breathers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So still being able to keep that cardiovascular adaptation going is important if you're going to run fast. So I've signed up for a 10K trail that's going to happen in a couple of months. So I'm bumping my running up just because I don't want to go out and make a fool of myself, right? So I am going to stay on this regiment that I've created, my weekly routine, and then I'm going to test my fitness every once in a while with races. That's different than training from race to race. I got my routine set. I'm going to do this till the day I die, and occasionally I'm going to sign up for some races just to see where I'm at. Do you see the difference?
Yep.
I'm going to occasionally do that 1 rep max on deadlift, but I'm going to every week do 3 to 4 days a week like this, tweak around my programming a little bit, and then, every 6 months, throw a bunch of weight on there and see what I can pull. So I'm going to do the routine forever. It's just the little finite tests in there, if that answers your question.
It does.
Yeah.
Do you have many problems comparing yourself to other people?
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to be real honest, I think we all kind of do.
I guess to what degree do you have problems comparing yourself to other people?
So a friend of mine that's training for this race also, I said, so what are we going to do? Are we going to go down? Are we really going to try to crush this thing? And unfortunately, she said, it depends on who shows up. I mean, you've got people in the local running community that's in your age. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
You're going to show up and you're going to look around.
Yeah,
and
you know exactly kind of where you're going to place if you look around and see who's there.
Yeah. And I'm like, you're telling me I'm not going to know what our pace is going to be until we walk up to the line? Seriously? That's how this is going to go? So then I got to plan for the worst case scenario. So now I'm out doing intervals and all this other kind of crap because if that person shows up, we're going to go. Yeah. And if I don't go too, I'm going to be left alone.
Yeah.
So now I'm not to that degree. Okay, so what I'm trying to explain is that's this person. I'm not that person.
Yeah.
I'm okay with showing up and going, you know what, I'm going to have a heck of a breakfast when this is all said and done. And I don't want to push myself so hard that I don't enjoy it, right?
Right.
But there was an age and stage that I was that guy. I mean, the reason the way I qualified for nationals was you have to be the top 3 overall in this duathlon, which was like it was a 5K and a 12-mile bike ride. And so you had to be under an hour and you had to be in the top 3 to qualify to go to Oregon. And so I'm like, hey, I qualified. This is cool. So then I got on there to see what the real people that actually go to the Olympics in this or go to nationals in this. And, I was like 54 minutes and I thought I was pretty studly for Missouri. And there's people out there in the mid-30s. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not going to get a plane ticket for this. I can show up last here in a race. I don't have to fly all the way out there to be last.
You're on a national stage.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, how cool is that? So
Hold on. You had to run a 5K and bike 12 miles in
Under an hour.
under an hour.
It takes to run
So
a
if you
K.
think if I'm hauling ass on a bike, it's like 15 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. So you would have to be going half that.
Twice
Is that right?
So I was.
I mean, yeah, twice that, and running a 5K and
right. So the 5K,
well under 30
5K
minutes.
was in the low 20s, and the bike I averaged 24 mile an hour during the race. And so you have to run half the 5K, get on the bike, do the bike, and then the hard part's getting off the bike and finishing the 5K.
Yeah, it is.
What?
Whoa.
That's ridiculous.
It's
Yeah.
hard.
How
Well, I
you?
mean, that's
What
that's
kind
the
of
way
shoes are you
triathlons
wearing? Are you clipping in on
You
that?
swim, you bike, then you run.
Yeah, but you don't run half a 5K and then bike and then
Oh, yeah, that's
finish
yeah.
a 5K. That sounds terrible.
Yeah, that is the
You
bad
do
part.
if you want to be the duathlon champion
guess
of
so,
the
man.
world.
Yeah.
Like Ron Bogart, I
in
guess.
that particular race, I kept the same shoes on because the transition time counts.
Are you? But
So
you,
I wasn't clipped
You're
in.
not clipped in.
No. No.
Doesn't that make a difference?
It does, but it's a 12-mile bike ride, and it wasn't like ridiculously
you can power
hilly.
through, you can power through that
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
cage pedals or whatever.
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
That is impressive.
I had cage pedals on my first bike. I like those.
Still have cage pedals.
Yeah.
on the bike.
Those clip things
They're
are
good.
scary.
I did my half Ironman with cage pedals.
Oh, okay. I
What's
like
a cage
pedals.
pedal?
It's just
Your toe slides
think of the
into-
rower. How there's like a
Oh,
little strap
yeah,
that goes
okay.
over it
Gotcha.
to keep your
Gotcha.
foot planted to the pedal.
Well, before Amanda's first and last triathlon,
Yes.
she learned to clip in
The night
the
before.
night before, and it did not go well. It wasn't. I went to bed like this. It's like, oh God, tomorrow's not going to be.
She's just gonna bring the bike to bed. It's gonna be attached to it. She's gonna like.
She's trying to get on the bus with it. Like, but she handled it. And
yeah.
I was thinking, while we got in the water, she hadn't ever swam in open water, I don't guess, had you?
Didn't realize that till I got out there and needed to take a break and I couldn't touch down.
Oh, wow.
And I thought I heard someone that sounded a lot like Amanda, but I wasn't sure. But I thought I heard somebody say, like, I need help, or I need to get out, or whatever it was. And so the rest of the time I was like, oh, man, this is going to suck. Like, I don't even want to get to the finish line because it's not going to be good. And then sure enough, I get done, and she had hung in there the whole time, made it out of the water.
Nice.
And
My gears jammed on my bike. That's what stopped me. And I didn't know how to fix, I don't know how to fix a bike. I just got that bike, like a couple months before that. And
but you had
kept
rode
trying,
it once.
and I just tried to pedal. I just was in the lowest gear. I was like locked down. I was just going. No, it was the other one. It was like all tight.
You were in the
And I was, that big hill. It jammed on the hill, so I had to get off and walk up the hill. And I got back on. I was just like, I'm just gonna do this till they pull me from the course. And finally, it broke out.
But
It
you
broke
got
loose,
out.
and I
You
got
got out okay.
Yeah, it broke out.
cool.
I had no idea what I was doing. I just kept messing with my gears, trying to get it to break. But anyway, that was my first and last triathlon.
I haven't done one this year. Doesn't look like I'm gonna.
I thought you did one with Will and them.
Not this year.
That one this year?
They didn't even invite me, I don't think.
What did you?
Maybe
do?
they saw you as a threat.
Sure, that's what it was probably.
Yeah.
This guy, the guy that I go down there with, won
wins
the
the
Memphis
thing,
and Maine
yeah.
triathlon. He's been on the show, Will Moore. And then another guy who played D1 football at Mississippi State. These guys are like super athletes. And then there's me, but we enjoy the ride, and they don't give a shit. They did not invite me because I'm bad at being a triathlete. They didn't invite me probably because they don't like hanging around me, but we always have a good time.
I'd say you bring a lot of fun to the event. It's
Plus, you
supposed
got to
be
wait
fun.
around for those trophies and all that stuff. So
That
you
is
know,
a bit of a drag.
I didn't want
So
to
you
do
can
that.
get it and throw it in the garbage.
No, I don't get one. I just got to wait for them to pick theirs up. I just sit there and eat hot dogs and hamburgers, waiting for them to do
I'm
it.
so terrible at swimming and riding a bike. It's embarrassing how bad it is.
I've never seen you ride a bike. You did that triathlon that year that we trained for.
Yeah.
You guys did that one
I've
that
done
the swimming was in a pool.
Yes, I did one with the swimming. That was my
No,
first
not the one that you and I did.
The one that we did together was
Mighty Might.
Mighty Might, and it was open water.
Yeah.
That's the one I did.
Because the pool was the back and forth.
The pool one, yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't train for it, and I just thought it's 400 meters.
Yeah, right.
All I
It
gotta
doesn't
do
sound
is-
like a lot.
All I got to do is swim 400 meters in a pool. I could do that.
So my wife, we had a little sprint triathlon like that, and you could do a team. So my wife signed up to swim. One of my other boys ran. The other boys biked. And so I was racing most of the rest of the family. Well, my wife's training was she was raised in her family. They had a pool. So I'm like, well, you should be able to swim because you were raised with a pool. And so our training was basically us sitting in our hot tub talking about how good she was going to do at the swim. And she's still a better swimmer than I am, but it was awful for her.
Oh, dude, I went.
And so that was my fault too. So
I got in, and I was like, I don't know how long a pool is. It's like 25 meters one way or something. And like by the time I got all the way across, it was like,
Yeah.
I was out of breath and I couldn't swim. I had to stop and stand up, and everybody's like, "Get out of the way, you moron!" Like, what's wrong with you?
It took us 4 times. We spent 4 times more time driving to and from the pool that we were going to swim in than we actually did training in the pool that we swam in.
Right.
Vaughn originally said, I said, where are we going to train? And he goes, I figured we'd do it at your pool. I was like, my pool's like
Just like 3 strokes and you're done.
14 feet long. So we drove down to the casino one out there, and it was like, oh, this will be awesome, man. And then like 12 seconds later, we're both like, oh my God, like this is so bad.
He's lying because he gets in the water and he's off.
Yeah, he can swim.
He can swim really
Yeah.
good. In fact, when we did the triathlon, he like passed me like.
Were you like swim team as a kid or anything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems like all the natural adult swimmers were the ones that were on swim team as a kid.
Yeah, and I'm not a fast swimmer, but I'm comfortable in the water.
He took off, and I'm like, Mister, can I hold on to the side of your boat? Like, no, we'll pull you out if you do that. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? He's like, well, there's a buoy over there if you want to grab a hold of that. I was like,
Oh, that's right. He wouldn't let you touch his boat, would he?
right. Apparently, if you touch the boat, you're disqualified or something.
I tried.
I hung on to every boat at the Mighty Might. I tell them I'm coming, and I'd swim over to the next one.
Would you really?
Yes,
Oh,
because I was
wow.
afraid I was going to drown.
Boat hopping. Yeah.
I was like, tell them I'm coming. Tell them to look for me.
I did the one at the Rebel Man that was in a pool, and Michael Shelton, my best friend, was like 3 people ahead of me, so whatever that is, 18 feet or something, and I just got excited and I was like, I'm gonna catch him, I'm gonna run him down, and trying to catch up, trying to make up 10 feet of distance in a pool is a terrible idea. I mean, you can just go to hell so quickly, and I thought I am the fire breathing thing. And then, you can put your feet on the bottom in the shallow end. And so I'm like, I mean, you can do that without getting disqualified.
You can
but
run
I'm
in
also
there.
like, I don't want anybody to know. So I'm trying to like
Run, walk
at the same time, so I'm like up to here, like my navel's out of the water, but my arms are still going like this. Like when you take a dog out of the water, like Charlie, when he's scared and
Yeah.
he's just like pawing outside. And
Did
I was
it help?
doing that. No, not really.
No, it
the
really doesn't.
anxiety of getting caught walking probably took as much out of my breath as anything else. And then when I went from the pool to the bike, there's already a weird like oxygen flow. Like you almost feel nauseous from how out of breath you are and coming out of that pool. And I ate one of those honey stinger waffles, and it was like I would have been better off just taking an 8-ounce swig of Quickcrete and putting that in my mouth. I ate that waffle for like the next 14 miles on that bike.
Well, and most people normally go out on the bike real fast because they're still so happy that they survived the swim. They're all excited to be on the bike, and they always go out too hard because they're alive.
Man, and if you get on a bike and you haven't been on a bike in, 24 years or so.
Or if you've never been on a road bike, those tires are small.
Yeah.
I had a water bottle on my bike, and I was too scared to let go of one of the handles to grab the water bottle. And I'd
That's
take one
awesome.
hand off and be like, "Grab," and I couldn't get it in time, so I'd get scared and have to put it back on the handle. I didn't drink one drop of water the entire.
But you spend 14 miles literally like going,
Yeah, exactly.
That's the best.
and then you get off that bike and man, it's like things are broke.
Yeah.
Like these feet just, it can't move at all. I can't do nothing.
I was so happy to be running when I got off that bike.
Oh man, I hated
Oh
it.
God.
Well, you can finally get a drink of water, right?
God, I could get water and do something I know how to do.
Yeah, I felt the same way. The
I
run.
got passed by like a 12-year-old kid on a Huffy, like a legit Huffy, no gears, no nothing, just a Speedo.
Wah, wah, wah.
That was it. All these people were passing me, and I was like, that guy, he's, retired, so he has time to train. And that guy, he's probably an athlete, and that girl, she probably doesn't
And the
work.
kid-
Or
Everybody
whatever.
had a story.
Yeah,
Right,
somebody's
their
got
story.
like an Iron Man tattoo, and I'm like, well, I'm not expected to pass him, and it just got worse and worse, and my excuses just went deeper and deeper, and ultimately, it's like I'm just not really good at this. I think is what this all boils down to.
Chris Hope says he swims like a bag of cement.
Ask Chris if he's ever done a triathlon. I'm
We'll
curious
see.
to know that.
We'll see if he comments here in a second.
We should all go and do a triathlon at some point, just for the giggles of it.
Okay.
Says the swimmer.
Yeah.
That really is. That is the
It is
biggest
the
obstacle to
strongest
get
I can
over.
take. It
I mean,
really
you can
is.
muscle your way through the rest of it. But if you're a bad swimmer, it would make things really hard.
That's the thing I say. Like, it's with running, you get tired, you can stop and walk. With biking, you can coast for a while. When you get tired swimming, like, it's drowned.
You're
Like,
sink or swim.
And that's why it's the first event, because it's the most likely to cause death. So that's why they don't put it later on.
Yeah.
Chris says he's only done a duathlon.
My people.
We need to talk about Ron's wife. Ron, much like myself, has married up, and he's a lucky man. His wife started and owns Jordan Essentials, Healthy Skin and Healthy Life. And tell us about that.
So it's a personal care line of products, but what I brought for all of you, just so you know,
Awesome.
all of you in that bag, is some Dead Sea Salt Soak. So you've heard of people that take Epsom salt soaks and things like that to help with recovery. Well, you're talking about your product that has magnesium in it. Well, we've got a salt soak that the salt came from the Dead Sea, which has 21 minerals that don't exist anywhere else in the world except in that bag. And it's got magnesium in it, so you get to absorb the magnesium. And so you're talking about sleeping and recovery and all these things. That's some magic stuff.
Ooh, I like it.
And
you will hallucinate and probably fail a drug test.
Well, when you were talking about the dreaming and everything, I'm I mean, I traffic in that all the time. But she's also got, it's all real healthy products, mineral makeup, essential oils, those kinds of things. But she's been doing that for 20 years.
Has she really?
Wow.
Yeah. She started in 2000.
He says she's got between 30 and 40 employees. Wow. I mean, this is like a legit operation.
She sells in all 50 states, Guam, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands. So she's kind of a big deal. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Does she cater to or market to runners and lifters or anything?
So, especially in our community, we've got a wellness center called AYB, and we've got a relationship with them. They've got some of our products in there, but there's no limit to her market. But she even 2 catalogs ago, I think, had some pictures of the people I ran the Pikes Peak Marathon with, because they used some of the products too for recovery, and got magnesium lotions when you get a strain or something uncomfortable. So she's got a little bit for everybody. That little tube on the front's a magnesium stick. So like I had a balled up spot in my shoulder from the drive down. I just rubbed that on there and everything's good.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Very cool.
She has people that care about her enough to leave reviews in her magazine, I see.
Well, of course, yeah.
I need to get in touch with these people.
And she's got a big community online, and she sells it through kind of a home party thing, but now they do online parties as well. So
the whole reason we wanted you on here is so that your wife would go leave us a review.
Yeah, you think she could do
I
that?
think she probably will.
Well, she joined the Lift Heavy Run Long group today.
Did she? Good.
Yeah.
I saw that. I
Yeah,
wanted
she's
to-
on here. She shared
that
the
Nancy?
Yeah, Nancy shared the.
She
the
said she
one.
commented earlier. She said, "Who knew you could sweat in the pool?" When we were talking about.
She's great. I'm telling you what. Everything good about me came from her. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Look what I got. Y'all did get one.
No, we didn't, because we're all too fat. She was the only. He only had that size, but he's going to get it for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Special
it.
order.
Special.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's coming.
Yep.
Legion of Longevity. If you're not a member of that in your Facebook group, go join that. Instead of taking the time that you would normally take to leave us a 5-star review, go on Facebook and join Legion of Longevity.
There you go.
This thing's going to take off, man. I hope that you continue with
I
it.
like it.
And it'll be fun to watch.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Lift Heavy Run Long number 156 is in the books.
Boom.